Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Welcome to Road to Recovery. For those who are joining us for the first time, Luke and I do this webinar once a month. We do it the last Sunday of every month. And it's an opportunity for you as as an individual or as a couple to be able to come together and learn and get tools for relational healing, and then hopefully be able to facilitate some discussions after and to have continual healing. So there often isn't a whole lot of places to get this. And so we're really passionate about it. You can do this monthly meeting with Luke and I, and then also Hallie and Stephanie also have a webinar called Choosing to Stay. And their webinar is once a month, and they also have a free podcast. And so if you haven't listened to that, it is wonderful. I'm going to put a few of the links in the chat. And then just as far as announcements go, okay, there are some links into the chat to some of the podcasts and webinars. There is a Healing Hearts for Couple course coming up. Stephanie is running that. It will be Sunday night starting in October at 5 p.m. Mountain. And it offers a comprehensive program. I am reading it because this makes it sound better than I would probably say it. So Healing Hearts offers a comprehensive program for couples in early recovery, focusing on partner betrayal and sexual integrity issues. This course will allow couples to learn more about emotions, communication, boundaries, and how to address underlying issues. So I highly recommend that. And that is for couples. And then there also, Hallie Roderick has her Help Her Heal course for just men. And that group is starting September 11th. And it is Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Mountain. We also do have a course for men who are the betrayed partner. And so if you are a betrayed partner who is a man who would like a support program, we do have one of those.
Or if you know somebody that does, because often there's not a lot of resources out there for that.
Yeah. And then Luke, do you want to go over the Q&A? I have an animal playing with a squeaky toy that I'm hoping Zoom blocks out, but for my sanity, I got to go get rid of it.
Yeah, totally. It's an animal, not a child, I'm pretty sure. Okay. Yeah, so Q&A. For those of you who've been here many times, just bear with me for this. Please put your questions in the Q&A box, tool, bubble, whatever it is, because we'll better be able to keep track of them and make sure we don't miss it. Love the stuff in the chat, because you can send it to Alana and I and offer us words of encouragement. Like, you guys are doing great, or whatever it is. You guys are always so kind. So please feel free to put that in there. And the recording will be sent out after too. So if you can't stay for the whole time, we like to wrap up at the end of the hour. Sometimes we'll go a little bit longer. And don't worry if you've never been to a webinar before. Nobody has any idea you're here. When you do put something in the Q&A, you can choose anonymous, or you can choose who it's from. Try to keep it, it's funny, brevity matters, so we can really get to the meat of what you're saying. So sometimes if it's a few paragraphs, it can be hard to grab everything. So just try to condense if you possibly can. Okay. All right. I think we can go, Alana.
Okay. So where we're starting tonight. One of the topics that got brought up was around sobriety. And the question in essence was, I am getting sobriety, I have sobriety, and my partner can't see that or can't recognize what a good thing that is. And on the flip side of that, I hear partners often say, sobriety isn't enough. And that can feel really frustrating to both partners. The whole concept of sobriety and sobriety not being enough. And so we're going to talk a little bit about why sobriety is important. And when I say sobriety, I know not everyone here has sexual addictions. I know that there are people here who do, and I know some who have had problematic sexual behavior in their relationship. And so when I say sobriety, I am referring to no longer acting out with sexual behaviors, no longer acting outside of integrity when it comes to sexually acting out. So that's what I'm referring to when I use the word sobriety. So the partner who has acted out has said, hey, I haven't acted out for this amount of time. Why aren't they happy about that? And the partner who's been betrayed is going, yeah, you haven't acted out for this amount of time. And why can't you see this isn't enough? So that's what we're going to dig into tonight. And Luke, I'll turn that over to you. I'll let you start.
Yeah, there's a combination of two things going on. One is I'd like to get credit for my hard work. I've never done this before in my life. Can we celebrate this together? And then there's another part of it is that I don't want the pain. This is really painful, the fact that we're in this and you're still in pain. And when can we move past this? So I'd like to pull in the common denominator. In fact, we just went through this as a group tonight. So if you just got done in group with me, hopefully this is still useful and helpful hearing parts of this a second time. There's some compartmentalizing to go here. So I asked the men in the group, we talked about this. How do we go about it? We talked about how, okay, how many days it was said in jest, but how many days do you need to go through before your wife stops experiencing pain and sharing pain with you? We weren't joking about the subject. We were just talking about it in the fact of, there is no answer. Like the amount of days. It's not like once you hit 180 days or 365 days, she's no longer in pain. And all the men on the call, I at least that I was aware of, were like, there is no certain amount of days where she's just magically not in pain anymore. So, and I asked him, I said, how often do you get frustrated? Because there is no magic number of days. And the topic was compartmentalizing. It was the reason why she's in pain and you're having a hard time dealing with her pain. One of the major factors is I've tucked that pain away. I've not acknowledged it. And I pretend like I don't think about it. And the only person that's thinking about it is you are. So basically I got something stored away in a box of something that happened to me. I'm sober now. So I'm just going to focus on sober and I'm good. I'm not good, but I'm in a better place because I can put that in a box away, the things that I used to do now that I can focus on that I'm sober. And that's residual addict behavior. That's something that comes up because of the way my brain is formed from years and years of acting out, is the ability to focus on just one thing. And our spouse is not focusing on that one thing for many reasons. So what we do is we acknowledge, like, okay, I'm compartmentalizing. I'm like, she's not. She's aware of everything that's going on. She is more aware than I am. So that's where the healthiness kicks in and we go like, okay, I am putting things away. I shouldn't be putting them away anymore. Alana, any thoughts on that? Deep in thought, or are you looking at somebody else's message?
I was reading the Q&A and it was the absolute worst time for you to invite me in because I was not even kind of listening. I'm sorry. I trust you enough that I was just letting you run with it.
Well, I just wanted to pull you in because one of the compartmentalizing piece, I compartmentalize because I don't like it when I have certain feelings, and I don't like it when those thoughts create those feelings, and the feelings create thoughts. So if I can avoid certain feelings, then certain thoughts don't have to come up for me. And that could be maddening because the spouse is having all these feelings. So a guy's pushing his feelings aside, compartmentalizing them, sticking them in a box, putting them on a shelf, and it really creates that hard place. So I'm going to tie this back into what we're talking about. She gets really frustrated because sobriety isn't enough. Well, he's what he's not doing is he's not being aware of his emotions because he's putting them away, and he's not holding space, and he's not being present with her. So the men on that call were like, yeah, I realize there is no certain amount of days that we have to get through. Alana, I want to keep going, but I want to make sure you have space to jump in here, because I hate it when I just talk and talk and talk.
Well, just the thought that's coming to my mind is compartmentalizing is an avoidance technique. It's a way of avoiding what's hard and what's difficult. And so I'll see this show up with my clients where if somebody acts in a way that's outside of their value system, they're like, I don't want to think about that. So I'm going to put that up on a shelf. And not only do I not want to think about it, but I really want to believe that it doesn't affect anything else. If I put it up on the shelf, then this is this part of my life. And now I can step back into this part of my life and be fully present. And it's false, it's false beliefs. It's this hope that I can put everything neatly on these shelves. And that's how I'm managing my life. But what it is it's that denial that I'm living in chaos. But because it's so compartmentalized in my brain, I can convince myself that I'm not. So it just makes me think about how a lot of early recovery work is recognizing this level of the compartmentalizing and recognizing that all things in our life impact other things. And so it's coming out of that denial and coming more into awareness of what's really happening. And while stopping the behavior is essential and sometimes really hard to get to the place of being able to stop that behavior, there's so much beyond that that really moves you into full, wholehearted living, where you find the joy and the happiness, and where you actually do start rebuilding the relationships. Because we don't get relational repair through sobriety.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people think that will happen, is if we just remove the problem, which is not actually the problem, it's the symptom of the problem. But if we remove the problem, then we should heal and get better. And it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And think about it, like the reason the behavior is so damaging is because of the isolation, the disconnection. And a lot of men get sober and they're still isolated and disconnected in their relationship. And we have this said a lot of what he views as complaining because she's frustrated because he's still isolated and disconnected. And he's like, but I'm sober. But it's still so much of the residual problem that has to do with addiction. So he's sober, but he's still not emotionally present. So dry sober.
Yeah, one of the lessons we teach in one of the courses talks about residual acting out behaviors. And the residuals means it's not the actual acting out sexually outside of my value system, but it's the residual behaviors that went around it to protect it. Things like, and I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head, so jump in here, Luke, but things like selfish thinking, defensiveness, not telling the whole or complete truth, or lying,
Minimizing, rationalizing,
justifying,
black and white thinking,
denying.
storytelling.
Did I say selfishness? That's a huge one, selfishness.
I think so.
But there's a lot of these maladaptive coping mechanisms that often we've had for years or our entire life. And so to start to rewire the brain, and the process of rewiring the brain is not necessarily an overnight or a quick process.
So I have a thought. And I recognize that I put this in a way that's exciting and fun. And if you've been in the journey for like a short period of time, there's nothing that's exciting. In fact, there's this new book the book that I love more than anything right now is The Betrayal Bind by Michelle Mays. And I have all my men read it. It's amazing. And I tell them sometimes, and men call me out for it. I say, this book's amazing. And they read it and they're like, that's not an amazing book, Luke. That's not an amazing book. That's very painful. I didn't know. And I said, I know. And what are you learning from it? And they're like, well, yeah, I'm on my second time reading it. And I'm like, I know, it's so important. But anyway, there's this thing that happens when sobriety happens. When you have sobriety, what it does is it exposes all this gross, yucky like ways of living. And it's not an end, it's not a destination, it's not a I've made it. It's actually a place of being able to begin the journey of seeing all the gross things, all the things that are laid out that are broken and not what we want, because now we're looking at reality. So if a spouse is saying like frustrated with sobriety, that makes sense because sobriety doesn't give you anything but the keen awareness of what's broken. And in theory, that can create, if shame is dealt with, motivation in moving forward and wanting to tackle those things. Anyway, that just came to mind.
Well, and I think that was the key right there, is if shame is dealt with. So there's all of these deeper issues that go underneath the sexual acting out behaviors. And if we don't deal with those deeper issues, we will never have true long lasting healing and recovery and relational repair. So I'm going to make an assumption that everyone who is on this call tonight wants some level of relational repair. And so if you're looking to repair your relationship, when we've had this massive injury to the relationship, this massive attachment injury, to heal that, it's not going to take just stopping behaviors. It's going to have to be a changing of patterns and moving things forward in a different way.
Yeah. You just slowed down like I was supposed to say something next.
No, I saw something out of the corner of my eye outside of my office and it threw me off, but it was
Okay.
a reflection of my dog. So animals throw me off all the time.
Squeaker toys, reflections, all the stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So do you have more on this?
Um, nope, I don't think so. So please, men, um, if you haven't studied and uncovered the different ways you compartmentalized in your life, how you used to compartmentalizing and how you're still compartmentalizing, please do that work one-on-one with somebody. You can do it in group, but really seek to understand what that is. I talked to the men in my group tonight of, there's a worksheet, yay, worksheets. There's homework. And then take that and share that with your spouse. Share with them the way that you see compartmentalization show up, not to be accountable to her, but to be transparent and vulnerable about how you see that showing up in your life, or you're attempting to see it. I don't have anything else on it, Alana.
Well, there's two questions that came in that kind of relate to this topic. And so I think we should hit these two questions and then I'll go to the rest of what I prepared. So this first question I want to start with is, I had discovered my husband was having an affair almost 2 years ago. He is in total denial and believes his lie. I realized he had been acting out probably from the beginning of our marriage or before our marriage of 40 years. Can he actually believe his lies? He was crying today because I do not believe him. So, Luke, do you mind speaking to that, the question in there?
Yeah. Um, just give me just a moment to think. I'm not distracted. I'm thinking.
Well, and for whoever put this in, because this was an anonymous question, there is a little part that I'm confused in. So in the question, it says, I had discovered my husband was having an affair almost 2 years ago. First question is the affair still going on, or did discovery end the acting out in the affair? And then he is in total denial and believes his lies. Was he in total denial and now he's come out of it and said he believes his lies then? Or is he in total denial and believing his lies now?
Thank you for the clarifications.
And then I realized he had been acting out probably from the beginning of our marriage or before our marriage of 40 years. Can he actually believe his lies? He was crying today because I do not believe him.
Okay, I have thoughts now.
Yeah, and then for whoever wrote this, please write in to us privately your clarifiers.
And thank you Yeah, I asked for brevity earlier, so thank you. Thank you for clarifying some of those things. Okay, so the question that I have too, feel free to put it in here, which is, what did he do? What kind of process did he go through to actively truth tell? What kind of proactive truth telling did he do? Was he caught and then he shared about the details? Or did he go through the process of a full disclosure? Or, what other method did he use to share truth? Because, there's all different ways the truth comes out. If he's upset because you don't believe him and he's gone through a thorough process with a professional to share truth, a lifetime of truth, and that there's some emotional pain because they're still not, you still, you're still, it's, I guess there's some more empathy for him, kind of, in a way. I'm trying to be soft and I'm trying to be kind because I know what it's like to want my wife to believe me and her to not be able to and see her in pain. So I do have empathy for that. But also, what type of process did you do to deliver truth? That, and anyway, that's where my mind goes along with that.
Well, and it's interesting because the crying around the not believe, there's different layers and levels to that. So a lot of the men that I work with, there is that frustration of I really do want to be believed. And there is that pain with that. Sometimes it's used as manipulation to try to get the other person to see or believe.
Overt or covert, right? Like done subconsciously or consciously to manipulate.
And I'm not saying this is a case because I have no idea on this particular situation, but sometimes I see that in my office. Sometimes I see kind of a victim mentality as part of the drama triangle. You have victim, rescuer, and persecutor. And so we can get in that victim mindset. And it's, I need the other person to feel bad for me to take care of me, which, and I'll tell you why that can be so destructive in relational healing from betrayal is when we have a betrayed partner who is trying to heal from this massive attachment wound. And then their partner is coming to them. The person who's acted out is coming in a victim mindset and hoping, often subconsciously, that their other partner is going to hold that and make space for the pain when the betrayed partner is trying so hard to hold all of their big feelings and trying hard to keep it together themselves, then they often don't have space for that. And
Yeah.
so that can get very complicated. So the question before of can he actually believe his lies? Well, yes, people can absolutely believe their lies. In the Betrayal Bind by Michelle Mays, she has a section where she talks about the lying and why through that repeated lying that they try to believe their lies because the lies that they create is a reality in their mind that's often better than the reality of what's actually happening. And so the more that they lie and the more they try to convince themselves of the lie and the more that they're compartmentalizing these things, the more that they actually start to believe these lies. One example is somebody who's cheating on their partner may start telling themselves things about their wife. Well, my wife just doesn't get me. Well, my wife is too strict. And then they start looking for ways to reinforce their own lies. And while maybe there's times, like occasionally, I do feel those things, they start telling themselves, I'm coming to you in a sec, Luke. They start telling themselves these things more and more and more because it allows them space to live the fantasy that they are creating elsewhere.
Perfect. Perfect. That's the part and that's the hard part I had. Can he actually believe his lies? Lies is in like, okay, he knows he's telling a lie. Does he believe it? Like that's hard because unless you're really, really abusive. Anyway, we'll just go there. We won't go there. That alternate universe, that fantasy, that not being in reality, that is where he has to live to make the kind of choices he does, to the behavior to exist. So yeah, for him to believe that alternate universe, believe that it's real when it's not, absolutely where he has to be. So that process of coming out of that doesn't happen in one moment. That's why when I finally got the courage up to tell Alana all the things I've been doing, I could only share a part of it. And the way I went about it was very destructive because I gave her like the big things and I didn't share all the other things because I thought it didn't matter. Right.
Well, and actually in Michelle's book, she talks about this. I've heard it with clients. And in our case, when you first came forward, it was, hey, there was this amount of people. And knowing it probably wasn't quite accurate, but believing you're pretty accurate. And then coming back, I don't know, like a week later and saying,
I was 4 times the size.
yeah, and being surprised at that. And I've seen that in session with clients of, well, it was probably this. And then once we really start unraveling the denial and really digging into it, then it was like, oh, well, I guess during these years it was this. And these years it was probably this. And these years it was this. And then we add up the numbers and it's like, oh crap. I like I knew it was bad, but that we had been in such deep denial. And we did a webinar a few months back on denial. So go back and listen to that. But the denial is taking away these layers at a time. And I say all of this with a huge disclaimer or reminder that denial is not an excuse for behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So denial is essential to recognize and to start coming out of. And the layer and fog, I like the word fog, of denial can become very heavy and very thick.
Can I ask a question? Well, I'm not going to ask a question. So the reason we say it's not an excuse is for the betrayed person to let them know, like, hey, Alana and I we're not condoning this, that there is denial, which is going to say, well, that makes sense why the behavior exists, is in like, it's okay. It's like, it's absolutely not okay. And it is actually a part of the process in the journey. It's the very beginning part of the journey, coming out of the denial. And it exists. It is real. It is legit. So,
Well, and here's the other thing that keeps coming to mind is the importance of doing a full therapeutic disclosure. I was working on a disclosure. This actually has happened more than once, but there's one in particular that's coming to mind that when we first looked at what was brought forward, because when I'm working with a partner who's acted out, he writes out his timeline of all the acting out behaviors. And then I go through it with a fine tooth comb and we go, okay, what was the frequency here? What happened here? And we really dig in and make sure that we don't have missing pieces. And it's not uncommon to go through and they will say, oh, well, I only spent $100 on my acting out behaviors. But then when we actually like dig in, we go, okay, hold on, because there was this amount of events to this type of establishment, and there's this amount of this type of subscriptions. If we actually slow down and look at this, here's what we're looking at. And as we are going through and really digging in, especially when you have this trained professional who's not in the middle of denial, who comes in with fresh eyes, who is able to see and unravel things, this whole process for the person who's acted out of their value system, it's so important for them to be able to see with clarity and reality of what actually was. And it's not an easy process, but it's so important for that person who's acted out. Then we bring in the importance of it relationally for the betrayed partner to have an understanding of what they're even trying to forgive, what happened, make sense of their past, take their own timeline and put it next to his acting out timeline so they can have those puzzle pieces and figure out what the picture of what actually transpired and happened in their life. That process is really important so we can get the foundation to start building up the trust again.
And we'll do consult with you, by the way, on the full therapeutic disclosure. So we recognize it won't be for everybody. So if you're like, especially for the spouse, just let's talk, let's do a consult if you're not in a meeting with us and just say, hey, this is when you might be years into the journey and you might be feeling some peace and you're working on the relational things. It might not apply. So we're here to help you kind of sort through those things. Okay,
But
next
if I'm
one.
working with a partner who's acted out and he's never done that for himself, If his partner doesn't want it, I still want him to go through the process with me, and then he can share that with me or with a sponsor.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to do the other one?
Sure.
Okay, so this person said, okay, here's my question. I am missing my old life. I don't want it. I don't want to go back. I have no interest in going back, but I am missing the old life. I welcome help. I welcome help in working through some of that. If you wouldn't mind, just put in just a chat or in the Q&A, just give us a little bit of clarification on what you miss about your old life. That's what I'd like to know.
Oh, I love that you asked that question, because that's actually exactly where my mind went, of what part of it. I've heard people talk about their old acting out behaviors as like a worst best friend. If you had behaviors that you used as a coping mechanism, an unhealthy coping mechanism, it's a sexual solution to a non-sexual problem. If you had done that for years, and that's where you turn to whenever you were struggling, then there often is a level, and this is really painful for partners, and I get it, but there often is a level of missing having that place you could turn to that would always be there. Now, we say worst best friend because while it was always there, it left you with a mess. It left you with destruction. Sure, it was ready to come and party and hang out, but you were the one left when the cops came, and you were the one left with the mess, and you were the one left with all the consequences. And so it is not uncommon to have pieces of missing, but it's really important to get clear with what exactly you're missing. And it's usually not what comes to mind first. It's usually like what may come to mind first is looking underneath that, of if we have something surface level, is going deeper of like, but what did that emotionally give me? Because these are all emotional needs or desires that you're trying to meet. So again, these acting out behaviors are sexual solutions to non-sexual problems.
I love that. I never heard you say that before.
I think I got that from Dan Drake. I could be wrong, but for some reason my brain equates that to him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so I haven't got any context from it yet. Oh, here we go. So it's familiar. It's familiar. I don't want it in my life, but I am simply missing it. It's tough at times for sure. I don't want it in my life, but there are times when I still miss it. Not sure. Yeah, okay, you're making a lot of sense.
Can you help that make sense for betrayed partners?
Yeah,
Because I could see that
yeah,
being so confusing. And I think that you're describing that, Luke, could be really helpful.
yeah. Mm. Let me give it an example for the betrayed partner. Do you ever miss, you can help me clean this up, Alana, if it needs any cleanup.
And really quick, can I just highlight?
Yeah.
Um, he said, if I am not connecting anywhere, I can find a place to connect quickly, if that's what I'm missing, for example. So
Yes.
right there,
Awesome.
connection. I need connection.
We're both so excited to talk tonight.
I
Sorry.
know. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. So it's familiar. Like, okay, so here's my attempt to share something with betrayed to have this concept make sense. So do you remember earlier, if this applies to you in your journey, where like there was this life of not naivety, but this place of like you didn't even recognize what your husband was going through his mind. Like you just thought he was only thinking about you. You didn't spend any time looking at other women, all that kind of stuff. And you want that, how comfortable that was to just be in that place. And it wasn't actual reality. And that's what's so upsetting right now. And it was just comforting. You're like, I wish I could have that back or some version of that. What men do is that comfort that came from that place where you didn't know what reality was because he wasn't being real with you. Men experience a different type of comfort that's similar in the connection and in that peace and in the sense of purpose in life that sexual misbehavior would give them. Because that's what porn gives us, that's what acting out gives us, that's what masturbation gives us, is it gives us peace. It's fake, okay, it's not real, but it's the same chemicals released into our brain. It's the same serotonin, which is peace, it's the same oxytocin, which is connection, and it's the same dopamine, which is that reward. And these men, I did not have to search for that. Like, it was just, I didn't have to work hard for connection. I didn't have to work hard for peace. I didn't have to work hard for a reward. It was as easy as my computer, or fake connections with people with destructive behavior. So that baby bottle, that pacifier is gone now. That quick fix is gone. So that familiarity, of just being able to handle life when it's, and there's a period of time where it's not even just months, it is years, and maybe never really comes back of just those quick fixes anymore, because there's all the destructiveness of the consequence of the quick fix. Do you want to add anything to that, Alana?
Well, what's going through my head is, okay, how, and I'm going to speak right now to addiction. For those who have sexual addiction, how it impacts the brain and changes and rewires the brain. And you can Google and look up on YouTube of looking up with dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin, what happens in the brain with addiction. But in essence, as you get the dope, I'm going to say this really fast, so go research more if you're interested in this. But when we act out sexually, especially if we're using pornography, and I'll say pornography when we're doing it in an addictive way, is so problematic, because what it does is it gives our brain more dopamine than we're hardwired to have. It takes something that's very natural, which is the sexual drive, and it's so inflated that it gives us way more dopamine than our brain is actually hardwired to have. And our brain goes, whoa, 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 that's a ton of dopamine. And if we're doing this regularly, our brain goes, too much dopamine, I need to shut down some of the receptors. So as it shuts down some of the receptors, then when your brain goes back to like baseline, we actually have less dopamine receptors as before, and now we're getting less dopamine. Then our brain goes, oh crap, I need more dopamine. I got to get back to this homeostasis, back to this level. And so where did I get dopamine last time? And where did I get it quickest and easiest? I need to go back to it. And then as we keep doing this, this throws our receptors into chaos. And so as I'm working with someone who is recovering from addiction, if we're not looking at our serotonin, our dopamine, and our oxytocin, and also the vasopressin levels, if we're not looking at those and we're finding healthy ways to get those back to regular levels, then it is going to make that recovery work that much harder. So a really important piece of our healing journey is finding healthy ways to get these chemicals on a regular basis. So for example, serotonin is, how do we get that chemical that helps bring us down and make us calm? So that could be things like doing meditation, yoga, going for a walk, finding those things that help calm us down and create that serotonin, petting your dog or an animal, seeing a baby laugh, those type of things give our brain serotonin. So finding healthy ways to do this. Side note, the more that we're numbing out through electronics, totally non-sexual things, video games, scrolling any social media feeds, watching sports, a ton, any way that we're numbing out, we are avoiding healing these receptors. Oxytocin is finding those healthy ways to connect with other people. And by the way, when you're coming off of all of these chemicals, the things that we need to do to build these up aren't going to sound good. They're not going to sound fun. They're not going to sound exciting, because our brain's like, I've had these high levels and now you want, it's like, okay, Call of Duty. I was trying to think of, I don't play video games. It's like, I've been playing Call of Duty every single day for the last 10 years. And now you want to sit down and we're going to play Monopoly for 2 hours. And your brain's like, I I don't want Monopoly because I've been playing this game at this level of engagement, and now I'm going to go play Monopoly. Like, our brain has a hard time with that. So we have to be patient in the process. Dopamine, and when I'm working with my guys, I want regular exercise every single day for at least 6 months. But really, I want that as part of their recovery for the rest of their life, because that's going to help rewire the brain in healthy ways. And then vasopressin is the chemical we get as we accomplish things together. So for those of you who are in the place in your relationship that you're ready for more relational healing, when you can do tasks together, this is especially helpful in men's brains, especially, but both male and female, to be able to accomplish tasks together, that can also be a connecting chemical.
Yeah. So I want to speak to this man who asked us. He's like, could we walk through this at all? Could we do it? So I love Alana. She so beautifully put some of the things we could fill that bucket up, the things that when we leave those addictive behaviors. But what I want to highlight now and celebrate with you for a moment is that you are missing your own life. I want to celebrate that for a second. Because what I want to do is your body's telling you you're missing something. It's saying, hey, I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. Yeah, just uncomfortable. Now, since you're not numbing out and you're not just dumping chemicals on that, now you get a chance to understand what your body's asking you for. You go like, okay, what is it? What am I missing? And that process of feeling and seeking to understand what you're missing, that's your new life. But the problem is it's not like a quick fix. Like you said, Alana, there's no way that if I'm used to getting these quick fixes, that anything that I give my body that's healthy is going to is going to feel good right away. But if we really seek to understand what we're missing, what our body's telling us, that will feel a lot more rewarding and a lot more fulfilling after a long period of time. But it takes consistent efforts. It's like going to the gym. Like, there are people that are actually addicted to going to the gym. Like, I'm kind of a little jealous of them. There are people that are really addicted to, and addicted's the wrong word. I know. It's not the right word. People are addicted to the way that they eat, really, really healthy. It's because now their body has found and placed value on a way to help them get through this life that is actually now healthy. So I would just tell this man, like, hey, let's celebrate for a second that your body's screaming at you and telling you, or at least uncomfortable. Now let's dig in. What is it? Why is it uncomfortable? What is it telling you? What are you missing? And then building a plan around that to give that consistency for a long period of time until it starts to feel rewarding the way that your old life did.
I love that. And I think that anytime we leave something that was offering something to us, there can be some level of grief and mourning and loss, even something we didn't like. And so grieving the loss of that familiarity, I think, is really valid to do. And please don't put that on your partner, or don't ask your partner to hold that for you. And nowhere did this gentleman say that he was doing that. So I want to highlight that. But I do see that happen sometimes relationally. Is recovery is uncomfortable, and healthy is hard. If you are being healthy, it's difficult and it's hard. And there are definitely are wins and joys in it, and more as you get further along. But it's hard work. And so making sure that you find healthy places to share your hard in groups with your sponsor, with your therapist, with your coach, having those places to be able to share that hard, that's not putting that on your spouse who's trying to heal from their own hard, would be a very compassionate thing to do.
Yeah. Also, possible good read for you is Dopamine Nation. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
One of the book. So
Yeah,
that teaches us how out of whack what we have around us might be, and helping us be healthy.
that one, it's Anna Anna Lemk. I don't know how to say her last name, but yeah, Dopamine Nation.
Yep, that's how you say it. Okay, all right. We don't have a lot of stuff in the Q&A tonight, y'all. So a lot of people are really pretty kind and wait till the very end. So feel free to throw some stuff in there if you want. Yeah.
I have from last month what I was going to go over, but we have 14 minutes left. I did this last time. I said I'll save it for next time. But I think what I will do is I will share it, and with a disclaimer that if I share this and you are going, what the heck did I just watch? I will let you know where you can go research this more. So, are you good with that, Luke?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So then I am going to screen share. So the other piece of this that I wanted to talk about was patterns. So, and I keep itching my nose because there's like a hair itching my nose from my face. So I'm sorry if you all see me keep itching my nose. Okay. So patterns. When we are in a relationship, there's always patterns that happen between us. And there's no such thing as no communicating, because even if we're not communicating in that, there's communicating. And so, what part of our relational repair is recognizing what patterns are there relationally. And a lot of times, what we do is we focus on behaviors and responses, which makes sense because there's always behaviors that are happening. So let me screen share this. Okay. So on this page, you'll see when we are connecting emotionally, I have two charts. This first one is really simple. And in essence, it's what one partner does impacts how the other person feels. And it's recognizing that impact. So what I do, what Alana, I do to Luke, or what I do is going to impact how Luke feels. And I can't ignore that fact. Now, that does not mean that I am responsible for all of his feelings or his experience, but I still have to understand my impact. And Luke to me, what Luke does or says or behaves is going to impact how I feel. And vulnerable feelings that are not easily shown impact what I do. And what I mean by that is vulnerable feelings that I feel underneath impact how I respond and what I do. So that's in its simple form. In its more complex form, this is from EFT therapy, but we all have a cycle. And in this cycle, we all have ways that we respond to each other. And so I am going to explain this chart with an example. And with my example, it will be, I'm trying to think of something that would have set off my alarm bell recently. Okay, we're driving in the car. Luke and I are driving in the car. And he is driving. And as he is driving, we're just having a conversation. And in this conversation, we are talking about one of our kids. And when we are talking about one of our kids, all of a sudden he goes quiet. And right before, okay, so I'm going to take you to the middle of the screen. He goes quiet. My alarm bell goes off.
Do you have your mouse that we can follow, Alana?
Yeah, does this work?
Yeah.
Can you see me highlight?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. So I have the alarm bell. The alarm bell is my central nervous system picks up on things before my brain does. So my nervous system picks up when he does this little kind of breathe in shortness of a breath, he goes quiet. My alarm bell goes off. My alarm bell is my attachment cue that, hey, something might not be right. He just pulled away from me a little bit. So when my alarm bell goes off and my trigger cue gets activated, all of a sudden my brain goes to what just happened. Why did his alarm bell go off? When his alarm bell goes off, what I notice, and sometimes I'm not even consciously recognizing this, but what I notice is he stopped talking, and then my brain starts to interpret this. So you'll see over here the story I tell myself. The story I tell myself is he didn't like the way that I was saying something about how I was handling my kids. He didn't like how I handled that, so he's mad at me and he's going quiet. So the story I tell myself about me is I did something wrong. I took it too far. The story I tell myself about him is he didn't like that. And usually then my brain goes into, well, he went quiet. I can't believe he went quiet. He always does this to me. Notice the word always. He always does this to me. He's such a jerk. Relationally, I'm mad and I'm feeling disconnected from him. So I'm noticing, and this is me slowing it down. Usually all of this is happening within seconds. So when I feel him shut down, pull away, I did something wrong, I usually respond a certain way. So I might get mad and say, why did you just do that? I might get quiet myself and I might turn my body away and face the window and look out. I might stop talking. We have a variety of ways that we respond. So these responses are reactive emotions. So I'm angry, I'm confused, and I respond in some way. So when I respond to whatever I perceive just happened in the story I created, knowing me, if this really happened, I would have probably turned my body away and I'd be looking out the window and I'd go quiet. That's how I'd respond. Now, guess what happens to Luke when I do that? Alarm bells go off. Now his alarm bells go off. His attachment gets triggered. She just turned from me. She pulled away. And all of a sudden, he goes through the same process. And it might be completely subconscious, but our body picks up again on these cues. Now she's turned away from me and he has his own response. But notice this whole time I've been staying up here. When this happens, when I have a response, the reason that we respond in these ways is because when this alarm bell goes off, it triggers down here deeper attachment fears and deeper attachment longings. Now, each of our attachment fears and longings are going to look different. My attachment fears might be, I fear that I'm not enough. It could be, I fear I'm too much. I might fear I'm not important or my needs don't matter. And with these attachment fears, and by the way, the attachment fears a lot of times goes into our childhood. And a lot of times in therapy, we are trying to figure out and hone in on what our individual attachment fears are. Every single human being has them, whether you know it or not. Male, female, doesn't matter. And the longings, we as humans, it's hardwired into us to want to belong, to want to be understood, and want to be accepted. And so this belonging and wanting to be understood and be seen, we have this deep longing, and then we have these attachment fears that go with it, that those longings won't be met, and that whatever that deep fear is that we feel about ourselves can get triggered. So when that gets triggered, then we respond with those upper behaviors and responses, which then triggers the other person's deeper attachment fears and longings. And we can just get caught round and round and round and round in this cycle. Now, when I have clients who are dealing with betrayal trauma, every single couple out there on this planet has this cycle. It's just how much does this cycle run and roll our lives is a question. But when we are healing from betrayal trauma, this cycle is so amplified. It is so much bigger. And I'm always hesitant of teaching this concept because I don't want it used against the partner of, well, you're just doing this and I have these deeper longing and attachments and you need to heal them and make space for them, because we are still tending to the betrayed partner and helping that betrayal trauma be healed. But if we ignore this completely of what's really happening in our interactional patterns, we are missing a big piece. And so where I share this, depending on where you're at in your relationship, learning this for yourself and recognizing for yourself, what is my responses? What is the stories I tell myself? What is my own attachment fears and what is my own longings? And recognizing what's happening within you is going to be paramount in not only your own healing work, but in the relational work.
Yeah.
So, help me here, Luke, if that made sense. And we'll send this out with the recording, these handouts. But what in there do you think needs clarified?
Well, I can't speak for everybody, but what came up for me was there's a lot to this, and even if we gave it a full hour, there's still more. And the part that I'll speak to is when my wife tells herself a story about what's going on, tells herself a story, and I can really understand the attachment wounds and the attachment stuff that's going on. If I really I'm seeking to understand what betrayal trauma is, and I stay present as she's addressing that attachment stuff, and we are, my stuff's gonna get met. Maybe not right away, but it will. The people that have been betrayed also want to see their partner. They just don't feel safe to see their partner. They're afraid it's going to be used against them. So if I can stay there with her attachment stuff and the injuries that have been, and I can just be consistent with that, guess what? She wants to see me. She actually wants to know what's going on with me, but she can't until she feels that security.
Enough safety.
Well, I'm just waiting for me to get addressed. It's not going to happen because I'm not really being sincere in why I'm showing up for the other person. And then I don't think we can get to the whole thing today. So,
well, and just really quick, this top part, we tend to live in this top part, but when we can go deeper within ourselves and understand what's happening deeper, and then when it's safe enough, sharing what's happening deeper, that's where the real healing happens. Like when couples come into my office for couples, they want to talk about all of the surface level of what has happened. Let me share the story and let me give you every detail of what happened. But that's all content. I am more concerned with the process and what's happening deeper and what's getting triggered. So the more you can recognize within yourself when your attachment fears are coming up, what they are, what your longings are, and knowing that for yourself, that's where most of the healing happens.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm leaving you with a million questions. I'm dropping something really heavy. So if you want more information on this, if you go to YouTube, you can look up just basics of emotionally focused therapy, and you can learn more about that. I've used this word now the third time tonight. Disclaimer, big disclaimer is EFT is really good for later healing work. And so if you start looking at it and you jump into EFT work too soon, that can be problematic. And so definitely a good thing to learn about for your own emotional healing. If you are further along in the journey and that really resonates with you and you want to dive deeper into it, and there is that foundation of trust being built with each other, I love it. Having a therapist who's trained in EFT and in understanding betrayal trauma that's where I think you'll find a lot of good healing and resources.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, it was good to hang out with you tonight. Thanks for spending time with us. Looking forward to it. We'll see you this time next month.
Oh, and next month, Luke and I will be traveling.
Oh, yeah.
But we do have Hallie and Stephanie who run the Staying After Infidelity podcast and webinar. They are going to be running Road to Recovery for us next month.
We'll be rich. All right, everybody. Have a good evening, and we will talk to you later. Take care.